Minimum energy performance standards are rules that apply to existing buildings. So MAPs, these rules require that those existing buildings achieve a certain minimum energy performance standard or a threshold by a certain date or a certain period, typically triggering the need for doing some renovations on those buildings. This is something coming from the current Energy Performance of Buildings Directive on Article 9, and it requires member states to look at their building stock as it is on the 1st of January 2020 and disaggregate that building stock by the best performant and the worst performant buildings. The ones that are the worst performance buildings, they have to do implement recommendations, they have to improve their performance. So the 16% worst would need to go in 2030 to a higher standard, and 26% will have to do that in 2033. So this will push for renovation on the existing buildings. This is something which is not new. For example, in Portugal, we have already implemented MAPs for a few years ago. We have done that by requiring that non-residential buildings achieve at least a label C on the energy performance certificate. That had a huge impact. If you look at the statistics for non-residential buildings, you see that only 15% are D or worst in terms of their performance, which typically are small non-residential buildings. So MAPs, although it's something new, it's already making a huge improvement in some of countries, like the example of Portugal. MAPs will be actually one of the main regulatory measures that member states will have to implement, alongside with other measures like financial incentives, communication, and etc. This will actually drive the renovation, since it's a regulatory measure, and it will impose for member states to set up certain thresholds for buildings to achieve. This is already being done in some member states. We can see examples, for example, in Belgium, in Flanders, where MAPs are part of the renovation strategy. So they are trying to remove the worst performing buildings, implementing MAPs at certain trigger points for buildings that are being sold or rented. For example, people that buy now a house, they will have to do over a 5-year period some works in order to improve at least one label on their EPC. We have seen also examples from France. So starting 2025, G-rated buildings do not qualify for rental, meaning that if you want to rent a G-label building, you have to do some recommendations and improve its performance. And it's going to build also. So in 2028, it's going to go up to F-label buildings. And the idea is to keep pushing for worst buildings to be renovated in case they want to be rented. We have seen also the example of Netherlands. In the Netherlands, offices starting from 2023, they will have also to have a minimum energy performance standard of C, meaning that we'll have to do some recommendations in order to at least have that level of performance if they want to qualify for the MAPs scheme in the Netherlands. So the impacts, I would say, for the building owners would be that in certain situations, they may not be able to qualify if they want to rent their buildings. They will have to proactively look for opportunities to renovate their buildings, to look for financing schemes, other incentives in order to upgrade their assets and in order to improve, to ensure that they are more performant, that they also increase their value, and that will make a huge impact on the real estate market. So MAPs are one of the dispositions in the EPBD alongside with others, like the National Building Renovation Plans. Those plans will have to be drawn by member states, and they will provide the trajectory with interim milestones and targets that have to be achieved until 2050. These milestones and these targets will have to be achieved and pushed specifically using MAPs or using national trajectories for the residential sector. As MAPs and the trajectories will set up exact thresholds in terms of performance, the size and the number of buildings or the percentage that will have to have that performance in a certain period of time, those aspects will be the backbone of the National Building Renovation Plans. And I would say that those aspects, the MAPs, the trajectories and the National Building Renovation Plans are very much intertwined. The biggest idea of the National Building Renovation Plans is actually to drive the building stock to climate neutrality, meaning that all buildings will contribute neutrally in terms of carbon, and also making those buildings zero-emission buildings. So I think there's a pretty good link between maps, trajectories, the national building renovation plans, and the zero-emission buildings as a target, and I'm pretty sure they will work all together in order to improve the building stock at the EU level. Portugal implemented energy performance certificates in 2007. Since then, we have already issued around 3 million EPCs, which more or less it's equivalent to up to 50% of the existing stock. This has proven as a good quality and a great impact, because EPCs and its data has been used to support policy making, for example, monitoring long-term renovation strategies, or envisage what would be impacts if we do some changes in legislation. EPCs have also drive and incentivizing renovations in buildings, as they are used for access financial incentives or to provide fiscal benefits, or we are even seeing a link between the value of an asset and the performance it has. So these links are now showing up as people are more aware of the performance of buildings. And we have been using also EPCs and its databases in order to drive and support stakeholders, municipalities to draw their action plans. Also the real estate market, the agencies, they have access to this information in order to identify and know the exact performance of their buildings. We have also provided this information for the financial institutions so that they can better know what they have in terms of assets in their hands, their performance, and which instruments they can bring in order to improve those buildings. Our expectation with the transposition of the EPBD is to develop a third version of the EPC along with a renovation passport, so that we have EPCs as a clear instrument to identify the performance of the building, also to allow to check how a certain building qualifies in terms of maps, and on the other side to have renovation passports as instruments that actually support building owners to know exactly what to do in terms of renovations, step by step, in which moment, also evaluate when they have to fulfill maps in a certain moment in time. And so the development of these two instruments will be critical for our case in Portugal, and we expect that will also support building owners in the future. We have also implemented quality assessment on the EPC scheme from the very beginning. So it's quite common for Portugal, specifically ADENE, the Portuguese Energy Agency, which is managing the scheme, to provide quality assessment on EPCs, basically going on the ground, checking how EPCs are being developed and issued by experts, and that allows us to have a certain level of quality, which is good, because EPCs, as we have seen, are very much embedded in current policies, and so we can rest assured that they have the certain level of quality that will support the policies that I've just mentioned. Building automation and control, SRI, indoor environmental quality are all aspects that are new in the EPBD or reinforced by the current version. As I have already said, maps will drive the renovation and actually improve the performance of buildings. During those moments of renovation of buildings, it's a critical moment also to evaluate what kind of measures can be implemented in order to make those buildings smarter, also to include automation and control, and also to have indoor environmental quality aspects assessed during that time. It's expected that the SRI, the Smart Readiness Indicator, will also bring an awareness for smart buildings. And I'm pretty sure that people and building users will be much more aware and looking for certain technologies in order to bring their buildings to a smarter level. In terms of indoor environmental quality, we have seen also a great impact in terms of health and well-being. So people that have more air quality or better air quality, thermal comfort, acoustics, lighting inside their buildings, they tend to have a better health and better well-being, and that also has an impact on productivity. We all know that having good elements like the ones I mentioned, well taken care, it impacts on productivity, which is good for people and for companies and enterprises. So in terms of safety, we have seen also that building automation and control and indoor environmental quality also has a positive impact in terms of monitoring potential hazards in buildings like poor indoor air quality or overheating. So it's expected that all these elements in the EPBD will have a good impact, not only for the building users, but also for the managers of the buildings in terms of efficiency, operational efficiency, managing a building, getting access to data, real-time data, allowing also for artificial intelligence to play a role on how buildings are being monitored and operated during the whole year. So as most of the people tend to spend their lifetimes inside the building, I'm pretty sure these aspects in the EPBD will bring a great impact at the end.